If you're an old fan of The Walking Dead and you decided that this season you don't want to watch The Walking Dead anymore, I completely respect your opinion for doing so because I've done that with other shows. The thing about me and The Walking Dead is the fact that I have not been able to truly pull away from the show, probably because of the fact that I've attended all these panels and that I've read the graphic novel, and I think I have to read this month's issue, but for the most part I've read the novel. I've read Here's Negan. I own the t-shirts, the Funko Pops. I'm pretty much into Walking Dead, and at this point I just want to see how it's going to end. And in this season, season 9, they are about to open up a chapter that I really, really like called The Whisper War, which will come later on, but right now we are awaiting the whispers. Right now we are seeing the reconstruction of Alexandria, of the sanctuary, and of the kingdom. So in regards to AMC's The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode number 9, I am all here for it. I'm Sage Valentine, for those of you guys that don't know. And right now I'm going to review this episode for you. And I'm going to go from the top of my head because I've watched this episode twice. Once at New York Comic Con and the second time when it aired. And fun fact, I made it home like an hour before it aired, and I made sure that I got home at that time because I wanted to watch it when it aired and I wanted to watch Talking Dead. When I watched the episode the first time at Comic-Con, I was not disappointed because to me it fulfilled everything that I was waiting for. Now, mind you, this is my opinion. The opening credits look gorgeous. I like how they changed it because, as Angela Kang said, it does symbolize where they are in the storyline at this point, and it's like a new birth, a reconstruction. A lot of people who don't read the comic books are going to look at this like, oh my god, here comes another boring season, but just hold on, wait, and just watch. Because the Whisper story is very, very intricate, but it definitely pays off. And I am so happy that actress Samantha Morton was cast as Alpha, because one of the shows that she's on right now, besides Walking Dead, is called Harlots. It airs on Hulu. And Harlots is an amazing show, and she really gives a performance that gave me all that I need to give her a thumbs up with this casting. As for Ryan Hurst as Beta, he can definitely play that part. He can be very menacing. For those of you who don't know who he is, check out The Lady Killers, Sons of Anarchy. He was on an episode of Law and Order, and most recently he was on WGN's The Outsiders. I'm sure there is a DVD floating around from The Outsiders season 1 and 2 somewhere, but that poor show got canceled. Hearing that Brett Butler was cast as Tammy, I was like, okay, she can definitely do this. Because at first I was trying to remember, like, who is Tammy? And then when I watched the episode, I was like, oh, her. Yeah, I remember her and the other dude and that whole storyline. So this review is kind of going to jump around, so just bear with me, but I'm going to try my best to hit all the points. So let's start with the whole Carol and Ezekiel thing. See, in the comic books, Ezekiel ends up with Michonne. But Michonne's character has changed from the comic books, so they send her down a different route, which is how she ended up in Rick's arms. And Scott Gimple even said that from the time that the character first appeared, the road that she traveled was leading her into a relationship with Rick. It just was what it was. And if you read the comics right now, you know that she and Rick have a friendship, but it's kind of changing. I don't know what it's going to become, but it's kind of changing after Andrea died, but I'll see how it goes. Carol is Michonne from the comic books. So Carol, spoiler alert for those of you who don't know, Carol is going to deal with what Michonne dealt with in terms of Ezekiel's storyline. Ezekiel and Michonne did not get married in the comic books, but they were very, very close, and they loved each other. And I think they kind of sort of broke up before his storyline ended, but Carol is basically her, and Michonne was a little bit iffy about Ezekiel as well in the comics. Okay, let's talk all about this thing with the Saviors and with Alexandria and with the Hilltop. Tension is brewing. It is what it is. It was going to happen. It was bound to happen when you have all these groups trying their best to work together, specifically the Saviors being included into this collective, and I believe Oceanside's a part of it too. After all that the Saviors have done, I am not surprised that the Hilltopians feel some type of way about that. I'm sure the Oceanside ladies feel some type of way, and I'm more than sure that some people at Alexandria are trying to like keep their composure but not side-eye what's going on. And the Saviors feel some type of way because Rick basically subdued Negan for the time being, and they no longer have a leader, so now they're waiting for a leader. Now in the comic books, they do get a leader. They definitely do. However, as far as the TV show is concerned, the lineup of characters is not the same, so it's not going to turn out the way that we think it's going to turn out. But they will get a leader, and I'm wondering if the actor who portrayed both Captain Vane and King Roan from The 100 is going to be that leader, or is trying to lead some sort of resistance, because that writing on the wall, I'm sorry, it seemed like it came from him or people associated with him, but something's going on with his character Justin. And the Hilltopians do have the right to feel some type of way about that, and I'm glad that Maggie spoke up about it. Okay, let's talk about that scene with Father Gabriel and the others at the State House. First of all, I like the way that whole thing went. I thought that was so cool. I also liked how Father Gabriel showed how badass he's become with his hat and his one eye or something. Like, it looked like he had a glass eye or something. And he killed that walker near that thing that showed like the evolution of man from primate to human. And he killed that thing, and he was like standing up in the human form. It was so funny. I had a feeling that something was going to go wrong when I started watching the episode, probably because the opening was so sweet and peaceful, and it had Rick and Maggie talking on the porch, and they were, you know, admiring everything that was going on. I'm just like, something's gonna happen and somebody's gonna die in this episode. Because of the spoilers that I read, I knew it wasn't a major character, but I had a feeling somebody was going to die. So when they did that whole scene where they gathered up all of the supplies and that axle or that thingy, the plow, and then they gathered up the canoe, and then they had the wagon, I knew something crazy was going to happen. So as everybody made it down, I was worried. But the one person I was worried about most was Ezekiel. So as they all came down and the floor was cracking, I was like, somebody's going to fall through that floor and probably die. So when it came down to Ezekiel and he fell through the floor, it was so funny because I was at Comic-Con and my mom was sitting next to me and she said, that's how you know that Ezekiel is going to die. I was like, man, I have too many conversations about Walking Dead with my mom, to the point where she doesn't even watch the show, but she knows what's coming. So, or what has happened. I even talked to her about the comic books, but back to what I was talking about. She said, yeah, he's definitely going to die, and that was the writer's way of letting people know, like, Ezekiel is hanging by a thread, and he literally was when the floor broke. I would be lying if I didn't say that my heart was in my throat. I was just like, is this how they're going to kill him? Like, don't kill him this way. And when they saved him, I said, yeah, He's definitely getting the Glenn treatment at this point, and the Spencer treatment, and the Tobin treatment, and all the characters who came close to death and were saved. So when they got on the road, and they had that young boy, and I think his name was like Tim or Tom. It was something like a common name like that. And by the time I do the next review, I will definitely remember his name. When he was talking with everyone and everything seemed to be going well, I was just like, something's going to happen. And lo and behold, all of a sudden these walkers pop up, and the situation happens where essentially Rick and the gang decide that they're going to leave behind the plow and the supplies and come back later for it. Well, that kid decided he wanted to play hero, despite the fact that everybody told him that's not a good idea. Please don't do that. He went back. He tried to cut the horses free, because remember, they had to stop also because the horses were getting tired. And then they saw the huge herd coming. Well, it wasn't really like a big herd, but it was a sizable herd. And that kid cut the rope, and all of a sudden the walker bit him. I believe it was on the arm or the shoulder, and then the horse kicked him. When they were cutting his arm or attempting to do that, all I could think of was Tyrese. And I had a feeling that that kid was going to die, but part of me also said, well, maybe he might live. He'll just have like one arm, but no, he died. When I realized, once the scene shifted and we realized that his mother was named Tammy, the stories from the comic book came rushing back to me, and I was like, I remember Tammy. So quickly, I'll tell all of you who don't have the comics, like I had to explain to my mom. Tammy and this dude, I believe his name is Earl. If memory serves, they were not married. I think one lost the husband, the other lost the wife, if memory serves. And they each had a son, and I think Carl killed both of them, or he killed one of them, something like that. And Tammy and Earl came to Maggie, and they wanted Maggie to deal with him. And she would not deal with him, obviously, because it was Carl. She wasn't going to do that. Well, they kind of started a revolt against Maggie. And of course, the head of said revolt was Gregory's tired behind. I was so glad that they killed Gregory off this episode. You don't know. And when she got upset and Gregory appeared in another season with her and with Earl, and I'm just like, yeah. Gregory's going to do somewhat what he did in the comic books, but his whole storyline with Maggie was a little bit longer. So you were able to see a couple things that he did, including poison Maggie with pickles, because he gave her pickles and she got sick. So that's why she did what she did in the comic books and it repeated on the TV show. So is Tammy going to be some trouble? You damn right she's going to be some trouble. Her and her husband both. Okay. So we get to the scene with Rick and the gang, and when they did their little salvaging at the State House, they found some seeds. So those seeds were supposed to go to the Saviors. And as I said before, the Saviors are none too happy to not have Negan, because there was writing on the wall saying something like, we miss Negan, or I am Negan, something to that effect. And to be completely honest, that kid Justin, and I'm repeating myself, he seems like he is running some sort of resistance against Rick and has a lot of animosity. And I not only get that idea from what I saw in the trailer, but also from this episode, because Justin just seems very shaky shady. There's just something about that character. Well, apparently Daryl is like the lead, taking charge and making sure these people at the Savior's Sanctuary are doing what the hell they're supposed to be doing. And Daryl's kind of sick of it, and he wants to go off and he wants to help out, and it's just like, I mean, help out with other means. And it's just like, you can tell there's trouble brewing at the sanctuary. Okay, so as I said before, Tammy is pissed that her son died, and Tammy said that she voted for Maggie to be the lead of the Hilltop, but she doesn't like her and she's mad at her. But as my mother said also, it wasn't Maggie's fault that that kid did what he did. He wanted to be helpful, and he went back and he was trying to free those horses so they could run away from those walkers. And in doing so, he ended up getting killed. But that was something that was more than likely going to happen anyway. It was a risk that he took by coming out with the group to do what they were doing. Okay. So, what did I miss? I got to that part. Okay. Let's get to the part. Let's get to the part with Gregory. I have been waiting patiently for Gregory's character to meet his end. You have no idea. As soon as he popped up and they said they cast Xander Berkeley, I was so happy because I knew Xander Berkeley could play a character just like Gregory, because for as long as I've been a fan of his work, those are the type of characters that he has played, and he played Gregory beautifully. And when he tried to be slick and had Earl dress up and basically, you know, ambush Maggie because Gregory lied to Maggie, somebody messed with Glenn's tombstone and his grave. So she went over to see and got hit, and Enid ran over trying to help her, and she got knocked into something and she was knocked out. And the girl behind me when I was at Comic-Con was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. Like, you really don't think that somebody could get thrown against something hard and then later on be unable to walk? It's happened to a lot of people in real life, so I don't understand why she had that reaction. But anyway, I think a lot of people in that room that I was in, they just, for whatever reason, felt some type of way because they couldn't sit in like the front rows and stuff. And some people were mad because they were stuck in the middle or in the back and they really wanted to be in the front, but everybody can't be in the front. But anyway, they figured out it was Earl, and Maggie ran to Gregory, and I wanted her to punch him in the face, but she didn't. Maggie was pissed, and she was just like, listen, you don't even know how to kill me properly. She had had enough with him. She was done with him. I didn't even mention the part where she was pushing Herschel, and Herschel got knocked over out of the stroller, the poor little thing, and was screaming and crying. So when it came down to it, and people were gathered around in Hilltop, and I think Michonne and Rick were there. And what else happened? Michonne and Rick were there, and the rest of the group was there. So when we got to that scene where Maggie was talking and Michonne and Rick were present and the Hilltop people were outside, I thought at first that she was going to hang Earl or something and it was going to be some sort of twist from the storyline. But then the camera panned over and you could see Earl and Tammy, and it panned all the way over to Gregory with a noose around his neck, and everybody started cheering and I was cheering. I was like, it's about time. Bye, Gregory. When I read the graphic novel, that's exactly what I said. Bye, Gregory. Bye. I was done with him and all his craziness. And it's pretty funny on a side note when Tammy said at one point in the episode, you know, Gregory was all about us. He was all about the Hilltop. He took care of the Hilltop. I'm like, who? Gregory? Gregory has been always about himself. He has never thought about anybody else but himself. That's it. He wanted to look good in Negan's eyes and in Simon's eyes, even if it meant eating the poop off the bottom of their shoes. Even if it meant kissing their asses. That's exactly how Gregory was. Gregory was one of those people who would get in where they fit in and didn't care how they did it. So no, Gregory was not on their side. Maggie was more on their side more than anything else. But the thing was, as Maggie was about to hang him, or they had just hit the horse and the horse ran away or something like that, these two little kids ran out, and Michonne and Rick were screaming, Maggie, Maggie, no, don't do it. And somebody came to get the kids, and they took the kids in the opposite direction, and Gregory kind of hung there until he finally just expired. I mean, she had to do what she had to do because he was going to do something else to her. And he tried to mess with her child. He made a comment about her child not having a father, as if she doesn't already know this. As if she's not already pissed about the fact that Negan is still alive after what he did, because Rick and Michonne decided that they wanted to be different and they wanted to live in the world that Carl envisioned in his letters that he left for them. Yeah, she has every right to be pissed, and I understand that this season is not only Andrew Lincoln, aka Rick Grimes, last season, but it's also Maggie Green, who's played by Lauren Cohan's last season. And I know that her story is going to come to an end, and more than likely she'll die. Her character will die, or her character will disappear, and maybe the character will come back later on. I don't know what they're doing with the storyline. I'm just speculating. The thing is that I wish that AMC hadn't told us this. I wish they had just surprised us. I miss those old surprises where we just don't know. It was nice for us to say goodbye to Andrew Lincoln at San Diego Comic-Con, I believe at London Con for Walker Stalker, and at New York Comic-Con last Saturday, but I wish that this had been a surprise, because a lot of people decided to give up because they're just like, Rick is going to die, then what the hell's the point of us even watching this? And this episode gave us a lot of beautiful scenes, and it gave us a scene of Rick and Michonne bonding with baby Judith, and Michonne sitting with Judith as she drew a family picture, and then walking through a meadow, and these crows flying up in the air, and then the idea of Rick and Michonne in bed together at night, and you know, being intimate and cuddling and then kissing, and then they basically went at it, but they really didn't show up, but we knew it was going to happen. But I wish they had just let us just find out later on, because it made a lot of people give up, which is probably why the ratings are as low as they are. Also, the thing with Ezekiel and with Carol, those of us who read the comic books, we know, and if you haven't read the comics, you can just Google what's going to happen. You already know. I feel like the show is going to remix his storyline, and it's just going to be so messed up, and everybody's going to be so hurt. And quiet as it's kept, I heard a lot of spoilers about the first half of this season, of which I will keep to myself because I'm not in the business of spoiling this stuff for people. But it's going to be a bumpy ride for this first half of the season, and then Alpha's going to show up. And all the people who hate Negan are going to wish that Negan was back and doing what he was doing, because Alpha is 10 times worse than Negan. And her storyline is super duper short. But I'm Sage Valentine, and that's pretty much my review of Season 9, Episode 1 of AMC's The Walking Dead. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you thought about the episode and the season so far, and what you're looking forward to. And if you are or aren't watching, just let me know how you're feeling and leave me the comments below. And that's about it. I'll be back next weekend to review episode 2. And as I said before, I will not be in the habit of posting late reviews. I'll be doing these reviews early. So I love you all. Take care. Bye, guys. Love you all. Bye.